Welcome to the Sound of Movement podcast. Today we are talking about nutrition. This whole week we're talking about nutrition, and we're going to be talking about the most effective diet for performance. We've tried a lot of different ways of eating, and this is what we've found to work best.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Super excited for this discussion. If we haven't met before, my name is Yanni Baumeister. I'm joined by my brother Rad across the table from me, and behind the mixer we've got the voice of God, Richie. And this week we are going to share our experiences with nutrition. Now, I have to just quickly start with a brief disclaimer. None of us are nutritionists or dietitians. If you have any sort of existing issues or you want a customized nutrition plan or diet, I do urge you to seek the advice of a professional dietitian. We cannot provide that service. What we can do is share our experiences. We've got an accumulated 50 plus years working as personal trainers in the fitness industry, and we've seen a lot of BS, a lot of fads come and go, and we all actually follow a slightly varied nutrition intervention ourselves. So we got a little bit of experience on the matter. Today we're going to be framing, what our beliefs are around nutrition and why we don't really prescribe diets for people. We have protocols and we have interventions that we recommend, but we don't hand out diets because we are not really qualified to do so. How are you, Rad?
Yeah, I'm really good. Yep, I'm feeling good.
Feeling good. How are you, Richie?
I'm pretty good.
Pretty good.
Squat day today. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm actually excited about squat day. I went for a good run this morning. Legs are already cooked, so that'll be interesting. So first and foremost, what we want to do today is really just get across the main point for this series. We're going to do 4 shows consecutively on nutrition, and we're excited.
No, we're not. We're going to do 3 because this Friday we're doing a show specifically for our 28-day
Well, yeah,
intensive.
but that is still on nutrition. So,
Right, okay.
Yeah, we're doing 4 shows on nutrition,
right.
but the last one is actually not going to be streamed to the podcast.
It's going to be.
You guys are going to miss out.
Yeah, it'll be for our Unity Gym members only.
For our Unity Gym Tribe only. And the reason is because we've got a brand new 28-day intensive program that kicked off on Saturday with our Fast Growth Workshop. And that's another reason why I'm excited for this series, because it's a great value add for those newbies in the gym who are just starting out. They all want to know about our nutrition recommendations and protocols and whatever you want to call them, interventions. And so the first thing we want to talk about is that we don't actually believe in diets.
Yep.
We don't believe in diets because diets, as one of my good friends, and I guess you'd probably call him a mentor, Dr. Ross Walker, once I famously wrote in one of his books, Diets Don't Work. Diets are like a vacation. You always have to come home from a vacation, just like you generally have an expiry date on a diet, and that creates a little bit of problem for people. The intervention, whether it lasts 3, 6, 12 months, people tend to rebound from diets because they don't instill a lifestyle change that's sustainable long term. And unfortunately, we know through quite a lot of good research and good experience that it takes anywhere from 5 to 7 years for a new weight, a new body composition to normalize, and hormones, leptin and ghrelin hormones that give you the feeling of satiety or hunger, to sort of regulate themselves and for a new body composition to become your normal. Let's say you lose 30 kilos or 50 pounds. You need to sustain that weight loss for quite a long time before it becomes your norm. And people really run into problems with that. And so we like to teach a progressive approach to nutrition.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're probably thinking, but the show said the most effective diet for performance. Well, it got a click, didn't it? That's why we did it. It's clickbait. But yeah, we don't believe in diets. We don't do them. We don't recommend them. When you look at the statistics of diets, it's just, it is an obscene amount of people that go on diets that just bounce back and lose, put on all the weight that they lost on it. And there's good reasons for it. Yanni just said it. We're not going to go that far into it. But what we're going to talk about is, we're not nutritionists, we're not dietitians, but what we are is personal trainers that have taken a very active interest in nutrition to the way that you eat to foster health,
Yep.
to live in a healthy body. And we've done a lot of trial and error, and we've worked with a lot of people, and we've found something that works really, really well. And one of the reasons why it works so well is because it isn't a diet. It's not saying you can't eat this, you have to eat that, you have to do it this way. It's guidelines that influence the behaviors that you have around food, and that there's different ways to do it. You can customize it to what suits your lifestyle and what suits your needs. There's a few boundaries that can't be broken. There's some boundaries that you can't bust through, where if you break through to the other side, there's nothing you can really do if you break this boundary. Something like, for example, calorie balance is a boundary. It is something that you can't cheat. You can't say, well, I'm going to eat this way, and this way, but I'm not going to balance my calories, which means you eat far more than what you burn in a 24-hour period. You're still going to put on weight.
I prefer the word or term laws.
Yeah.
Because we're following the law of thermodynamics, which is energy in versus energy out must be followed. That's the first law of physics, thermodynamics, and you just cannot avoid that. And then a lot of people, proponents of certain diets, will argue that no, you can eat as much meat as you want and you won't get fat, or vegans will say you can eat as much vegetables as you want, you won't get fat. But the reality is that certain foods affect calorie intake differently, but calories always matter, and there's no way around that, and it's a real thorn in the side of anyone who knows anything about nutrition, any personal trainer, any nutritionist, any dietitian. You get people screaming from the hills that energy balance doesn't matter. It does, and you're being lied to if you don't think that, or people are telling you otherwise. So that is the first law that we teach people that they need to understand. They need to understand that energy balance matters, and you can manipulate your energy balance via two ways. You either exercise more or you eat less. See, someone's already dropped off the stream once we talked about calories. It's like, damn it, I'm not listening to another calorie talk. We're not going to talk about calories here all day, but I am going to frame the 5 laws of nutrition that you really need to, any nutrition plan needs to cover. Okay?
Well, this is our nutrition plan. This is what's worked for us. So we should say that again. This is what we've found to be the most effective, and it's come from 17 years being in the industry. It's come from as an example, Yanni did a workshop where one of the speakers was Gary Slater, who's considered the forefront of research on muscle protein synthesis in Australia. He's considered a world authority on it. We've sat down and learnt from people like Louise Burke, was she the head dietitian for the Australian Olympic team at the down in Canberra at the Australian
RMIT. I think.
No. That was her husband, who was whatever his name. I can't remember his name, but he was the head
Hawley.
Research for metabolic research. So
let's just quickly frame the laws, okay? And then I want to just quickly frame why it's the third step. It's the third intervention. It's the third step in our health hierarchy, because nutrition is a beast, and it really messes with a lot of people, and it takes a lot to move the needle on nutrition. And we like to intervene with it as a third step. We focus on motivation first, finding your burning desire and igniting your motivation, the reasons why you're going to get up in the morning and train and change your diet and things like that. Then we like to get a habit of healthy exercise first, balance between strength, flexibility and fitness, get that happening on a daily basis, and then we start to work on nutrition. And there's a reason why. You need momentum to start working on nutrition. It's a beast. It's a hard thing to tackle, and for most people, it stifles progress. So the 5 laws are, first of all, balance energy to optimize your physique. You have to be eating in a manner that's balancing your energy levels. Either if you want to lose weight, you're going to have to go into calorie deficit. If you want to gain weight, you'll have to go into a calorie surplus. So the first thing to understand is that you need to understand your energy balance needs. Second is that you want to be eating in a way that reduces or minimizes systemic inflammation. So you don't want to be eating food that's going to create an environment in your body that is not supportive or conducive of your exercise habit. Because if you're stressing the body already when you exercise, you're stressing the body with work-related stress, you're stressing the body with financial, relationship, whatever the stresses or stress mechanisms are in your lifestyle, you need to understand that they all play a role in the reality, the physical reality of how you feel every day. And if you're eating in a manner that is increasing inflammation, it's messing with your gut, it's doing all sorts of crap things, then you're really, really making it hard for yourself to achieve your goals in everything, because energy is going to be stuffed, libido is going to be stuffed, your motivation will be messed with, your sleep will be compromised, all of these things. So that's the second law: reduce or minimize systemic inflammation. We're going to talk about how to do these things throughout the week. The third law is upregulate your healing pathways. There's three ways you can do that. You can start exercising, you can go into a calorie deficit, or you can time restrict the consumption of food so that there are periods of the day where you're not processing or digesting food. And all three of those are really great ways to move that needle and upregulate cellular healing pathways like autophagy, which is one of the pathways. The fourth is to build and cultivate a healthy gut microbiome, and that's really about getting food diversity, variety, and also, of course, again, reducing processed crap and junk food that goes through your body, alcohol, things like that. And then finally, you want to be eating to support your training and recovery. And the best way to do that, as we've learned from people like Dr. Gary Slater, is to prioritize dietary protein intake to make sure that you're maximizing muscle protein synthesis, to make sure that you're getting enough protein every day to support how much you exercise. And that's a really great way to also manage calorie consumption, because it has a higher thermal effect when you eat dietary protein. It's harder for the body to metabolize, and it tends to actually burn more calories just through the thermal effect of your food. So those are the 5 rules. Okay, and we're going to go and we're going to talk a lot about how we intervene here at Unity Gym with those 5 laws. And I'll repeat them again for anyone who missed them. Balance energy, reduce or minimize inflammation, upregulate healing pathways, cultivate a healthy gut microbiome, and maximize muscle protein synthesis. Okay, now let's talk about energy balance first. This is the one that everyone hates.
Well, I want to try and keep it simple so that we don't do another show about calories, because you're right, when you talk about calories, people tune out, because people feel like the reason why they've failed is because they haven't been given the right information yet, and they want what we refer to as the magic pill, which is the next thing. Like there's something that somebody hasn't told me yet that if I learn it, it's going to get me what I've been failing at for the last 20 years.
Well, let's give them the magic pill.
Yeah.
Let's talk about why a low-carb diet helps to control energy balance. Let's talk about why a zero-fat, high-carb diet helps to control energy balance. Let's talk about why a vegan diet helps to control energy balance.
And it's not what you think.
Any radical diet.
It's not what you think.
Extreme diet.
It's just that, so people might swear that a low-carb diet works, or that a vegan diet works, which are both like so opposite. Because when you eat a vegan diet, I don't know a vegan that doesn't eat a hell of a lot more carbohydrate than I eat. And then when you eat a low carb diet, which is far more like how I eat a lot less carbs than what a vegan would eat. When I look at the kinds of foods that they put on the plate, I look at that and think, man, I wouldn't eat that. It's too much carbohydrate for me. But people can go on a carnivore diet or a vegan diet and both lose weight. And the main reason that we've been able to identify is because what it does is it causes them to start removing shit from their diet. As soon as you decide that you're going to remove a macronutrient, you're forced to start looking at what you eat in a way that you've never done before. And the good thing about either of those diets is that it does that to people. It makes people accountable for the first time. People go from not thinking at all about what they're doing to thinking veganism is the answer, this is what I'm going to do. And they start having to look at all this stuff that they eat and getting rid of it. And you start exposing yourself to people that are much more concerned about their health than you you were before and it starts rubbing off on you. But the same thing happens if you go on a carnivore diet. The same thing happens. You're forced to remove all this shit that you ate that you never thought about before, and you're starting to work with people that are far more concerned about their health than you were. But both of them couldn't be more opposite than each other.
And so they both tend to produce the exact same results.
Yeah, short-term
results.
Yeah, short-term results,
exactly
which is an improvement in health.
Yeah,
an improvement in
let
health
me be
and an improvement in the way that you feel.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I have no problem. Like someone who really wants to get on top of health ailments that they've been carrying for a while. I do this all the time, where I'll do like a carnivore cleanse or like just go really radical to one side, and because what it does, what Rad just pointed out there, it's not what you're eating that makes a difference. It's what you're not
it's what
eating.
You remove. Yeah,
it's what you remove.
That's
from your
what
diet.
gives you the big. So, but we should also. So if we stay on topic. Why do calories count, and why is the low carb diet probably widely considered as one of the best ways to lose fat?
Well, hang on a sec. No. I want to really make this absolutely clear, and I don't want to become a proponent of either way, because both, if you go full vegan and you really eliminate a meat, then what tends to happen is you also eliminate a lot of fat from your diet, which is very high energy. And if you go the other way and you go full carnivore, you eliminate carbohydrate, a whole food group, a whole macronutrient. And the reason why both of those tend to work very well in losing a lot of body weight is that they eliminate that entire macronutrient. You know, and you tend to eat a lot less. You tend to consume, not eat a lot less, sorry, that's the wrong word. You consume a lot less calories as a result. And they both work really well. There's a really great study that was just published recently where two identical twins, genetically identical twins, went on to test this. One went on a vegan diet and one went on a carnivore diet, and they documented the results over a 12-month period, which is really has never been done before. And the results were really obvious at the end. The guy that went on the carnivore diet put on a lot more muscle. They both trained like really hard in the gym. And the guy that went on the vegan diet lost a lot more weight and leaned up a lot more. Lost a lot more body fat as well as a percentage. They measured by DEXA. And so this is like bleedingly obvious, the results, you know. Their health markers were quite the same. For some reason, and no one can explain this yet, the vegan diet, the guy on the vegan diet tended to lose his libido, which there's no literature seems to support why that happened. It could be a very personal experience for him.
Well, the Game Changers says it's going to be the opposite.
Yeah, that's what I found really interesting too. But for him, he lost his libido. His libido dropped right down. Yeah. But there were pros and cons of both diet, you know, and it looked like the vegan diet was better, more superior at burning fat. You know, the brother that went on the vegan diet burnt more fat and ended up leaner by DEXA. But on the flip side, the twin that ate more meat and went on the carnivore diet gained more muscle mass in a number of kilos, you know. So you can argue whatever you'd prefer, but they both worked really well, you know. They both got a great result from it. And so...
So we framed this well now. We should now give so that we can continue on with our topics here. So what do we do and what works for us? What we find works the best, because it's not extreme. It's I know very few vegans that have not gone back and forth between vegans and omnivores. Very few vegans that I know have been on it for a decade and continued to thrive for a decade. That's just me. I'm just saying that's my personal experience. The carnivore diet, I know no one that's been on it for that long, because it seems to be a newer kind of thing. It's only come out in the last few years, or at least anybody that I know that's been on it. But what we've found to be something that is a very sustainable way of eating is the modified Mediterranean diet. It's also the diet that has the most research around it as to the health benefits. And it's really basically just an inclusive diet. You can have some of this and some of this and some of this, but nothing in excess. And what we've found to be the best way to get people to control calories is just simply to remove processed foods. If you remove processed foods, people get left with, they start asking all the questions, what can I eat, that can I eat, that can I eat? And the answer is simple. Is it processed? Is it in a package? Did it get produced before it got sold to you? And what you get left with is meat, fish, eggs, any of those raw animal protein sources, any vegetable, any fruit, any nut. And, you know, even vegetable oils are considered a processed food, so you want to limit how much that is. But when you start eating that way, people start saying, "Oh, well, can I have this? Can I have this?" The answer is really simple: is it whole food? Is it a whole food? Did it come from nature, go through zero processing, and except for what you do with it at home to cook it to get on your plate? And if you do that in its own, to try to eat more calories than what you can consume than would put you in calorie surplus in a 24-hour period with whole foods is very, very hard.
Yeah.
Because vegetables themselves have a very low amount of calories.
And a very high amount of fibre.
And a very high amount
they
of fibre,
trigger
so
that,
it fills you up.
That feeling, that sensation of being full,
Yep.
satiety, very quickly.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
Yep.
So does meat.
So does meat,
you know, and so does
any
whole,
kind of
like good vegetarian or vegan proteins like beans and legumes.
Yep.
If they're really, really, properly prepared,
Yep.
they have the same effect.
Yep.
They fill you up. And they make you feel. They give you that feeling of satiety very quickly.
And so, because when you go from that, from eating processed foods to that, you're going from foods where when they take whole foods and they process them down, like you can look at the best example for me of this is a juice, a fruit juice. Okay, if you took an apple, it's quite hard to eat so many apples that you are in calorie surplus, because you get to a point like, try to eat more than 2 apples, even when you're really, really hungry. I've tried it, and I struggle to get through the second apple because there's something in your body that says, I've had enough of this now. Yeah. And you'll still be hungry, and you can eat more food.
Feel sick. I've been apple picking at the orchards here in just out of Sydney, and I fast until lunchtime every day. So I have my breakfast at 12, and I was quite hungry, and it got to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was like, stuff it, I've got this pile of apples, fresh apples that I've just picked, and I ate 3 of them, and I felt really sick.
Yeah, it's really,
like the acid and the sugar in it.
But you can still
really
go and
nauseous.
eat more other food. It's just the apples. But get a glass of apple juice and drink that, and you'll go for 2 or 3 of them. How many apples are in 1 glass of apple juice? Well, 1 small glass of apple juice is about 8 apples. You only need to use a juicer yourself to see it. So that's a really good example of how processed food works. They take food, remove most of the fiber from it, and you're left with, that doesn't remove the calories. The calories are left there. So when you're eating processed food, when you're eating a diet where it contains processed foods, the calories go through the roof. So, but it doesn't fill you up, and you can eat more and more and more calories without filling up. And you remove that, forget it if you're vegan, omnivore, carnivore, whatever it is. Just remove the processed foods, and you're going to find it hard too. So that's probably our first nutrition intervention.
The other good thing about that is that it ticks more than one box.
Yep.
It ticks, and we're going to talk about this more tomorrow. It ticks the box of reducing systemic inflammation, and it ticks the box of cultivating a healthy gut microbiome.
Yep.
It's really, really effective as a first step.
Yep.
And it is one of those things that, once you're in a habit of doing, it's actually really easy. It's hard to break a habit.
But every habit's hard to break.
Every habit's hard to break, but once you're doing it, it's really, really easy. And there's a few strategies that you can do. Things like clearing out the Aaron used to say the garbage.
Yeah,
clearing out the garbage that's in your house and keeping different types of food. And yes, you got to be shopping more regularly, because you don't have the food processing increases the shelf life, so you can stock your pantry with crap. Yeah. But that means you just got to shop once or twice a week, and make sure we shop once a week, and we get away with it pretty well, and that has a profound impact. Now, the second thing we're going to talk about today about controlling calorie, and you can do that step. I want to make this absolutely clear. You can do that first step of eliminating processed foods on any diet that you prefer, and this is really important to understand. It's really important to understand that you don't try to really outlandishly change the foods that you've been brought up on. If you've been brought up in a culture where you eat a lot of rice, and you eat this or you eat that, or you're vegetarian or you're vegan or you're a carnivore and you really enjoy eating meat and 3 veg, or an omnivore, then just stick to that and reduce processed foods. That's it.
Start looking at the things that you have to open a packet to get to, and start thinking, what could I eat differently than this? And it does take some creativity. At first you start thinking, oh God, I'm eating a lot of the same food. And I reckon this is just a real quick side note. I reckon one of the biggest problems that we have, at least in the Western world where I live in Australia, is that people approach food first by what do I want to eat for flavor rather than what do I want to eat to nourish my body. And I think this is one of the biggest problems, because when you eat healthy, you eat a lot of the same things, and that is life. A lot of the people that I follow that are really healthy, that are getting their nutrition right, they're eating the same stuff all the time. And that's one of the big problems, the idea that people
I think I want to be careful with that statement, because one of the things if you're following the Gut Microbiome Project at Sydney University here in Australia, one of the key things that they're talking about is that you get variety to support and cultivate a healthy gut microbiome, which we're going to talk about later in the week. And they talk about the rule of 50. Try and eat 50 different foods every week.
So that includes herbs and spices.
Yeah, that's exactly
right. But what
right.
I mean is, like, if you go down this path, you'd be like, okay.
So what Rad's saying is not eat steak and broccoli every night.
That's right.
He's not suggesting that. But
But you end up eating meat with steamed veggies a lot, or you end up eating roast meat with roast veggies or whatever, or a stir fry, or however you like to do it, or a salad or something. And that kind of stuff starts to become on repeat. You know, you're not eating these really creative.
It's actually quite easy to get 50 different foods in your week. If you list out all the things, bananas one, apples one, everything you put in your salad is a separate thing, is a separate food. And once you start to add all that up, you go, oh, wow, okay, I'm getting there, But
that going from processed foods to whole foods in and of itself takes care of so much of what you need to do if you sustain it. Yeah. And would you say that the second intervention that we give is around the protein?
The second intervention is to limit alcohol consumption.
Yeah.
And that is, there is no two ways about this. Alcohol is what's referred to as empty calories. There's a great book called Why Calories Count by Marion Nestle and Malden Lashim, and it is a phenomenal book. And even if you just read it for the chapter on alcohol, how alcohol works in the body, and why it's such an abusive load to your calorie intake. It is empty calories, and it is so easy. Good morning, Jody.
Morning, Jody.
I actually forgot to ask the question of the day, which is whether you're following a diet and how it's working for you. Richie, do you want to type that up? Are you following a question of the day? Are you following a diet, and how is it working for you? We'd love to know.
I couldn't agree more on alcohol, and I think one of the.
Can I just finish what I was saying? The alcohol affects you in two different ways. First and foremost, it is an abundance of calories. So no matter what alcohol you choose, whether it's white liquor on the rocks, you're still consuming a lot of calories. Or if it's wine or beer, or worse, a mixed drink with you've got a mixer, like a soft drink or something in there, then you're blowing out calories. And you only need to have 6 drinks in a night, and you've consumed more than a meal. Then you usually are adding that to the meal that you consume it with.
Usually
it's very rare. It's very rare that you replace your meal with the alcohol calories. Most people would be in the bathroom vomiting otherwise,
It's almost unheard of that somebody says, I'm going to skip dinner so I can have my six drinks and remain calorie neutral.
That's right, yeah. And it takes, for most people, if you're drinking wine or beer, it's only about 4 or 5 drinks, and you've consumed the similar or comparable amount to a meal. And then from that point on, from the second drink that you consume, the part of your brain that gives a fuck about tomorrow is inhibited, and you no longer care about what you do from that point on. And the more you consume, the less you care. So the chances or likelihood of you blowing your diet when you've consumed alcohol is really, really high. And that's the second way that alcohol is abusive to your caloric intake. You will often overconsume, whether it's an additional meal that night, on the way home, the kebab run, the Macca's run, the processed food run, and you generally overconsume for the next 24 hours. Sometimes 48 hours, because you're dealing with a hangover the next day, and everyone knows that when you're dealing with a hangover, the last thing you want to do is go grocery shopping for healthy food and produce or prepare a really nice healthy meal. Your attitude completely changes. Your ability to make good decisions completely changes.
You just want something that makes you feel better when you got a hangover. Yeah. That's the problem. And yeah, look, this is a really hard thing for people to understand, because it like alcohol, at least in Sydney and in Australia, alcohol is a part of the social lifestyle. People. Yep. It's almost socially unacceptable when you go out to a lot of social scenarios to not drink.
Yeah.
Not to not get shit-faced, but when you go to a pub, like people often go to a pub for a catch-up. If you go to a pub and you don't drink, which I've been doing a lot lately, you're the weird one. And it's not like people are ragging on you and saying, well, what are you doing? But you are the odd one out. And that social pressure is enough for a lot of people. But yeah, look, we've experimented. We know, we know the science of how alcohol affects your body. And in my opinion, it is very, very hard, if not impossible. I would say it's very, very hard to get to the level of health that most people are searching for, whilst including alcohol, any more than literally maybe 2 drinks once a week. Any more than that is going to be really hard for you. And at my age of 42, where I want to get to, 2 drinks, and I can't do it. And I'll tell you the reason I can't do it. And just wrap your head around this, because a lot of people find this very extreme, but this is the truth. If you don't drink like I don't, if I have 2 drinks, then that is within all of the guidelines of it's only 2 drinks. It's your body can metabolize it in one night and blah 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 blah. But the next day I will not be 100%. People might say, "Oh, that's ridiculous. I don't feel hungover at all after 3 or 4 drinks." Well, yeah, you might not call it a hangover, but I'm not 100%. And if I'm not 100%, it means I can't perform 100%. And if I can't perform 100%, then I can't follow the program that I've laid out for myself. So that's how it works for me. That's
another reason why alcohol really affects you. It affects your motivation to exercise. But I just want to do a quick calculation here, okay? A standard drink is anywhere from 100 to 135 calories. That's fairly agreeable.
Yep. Yeah, beer is about 130.
So let's take an average and say that a standard drink is 110 calories, okay? 110 calories times 2 is 220 a week, times 7 is 1,540 calories a week, times 52 is 80,000 calories. Now,
so that's if you were having 2 standard drinks a day.
That's 2 standard drinks a day, which a lot of people have. A lot of people get home and open a bottle of wine with their partner and have 2 glasses of wine.
And if you're free pouring wine, there's virtually zero chance that you're having standard drinks.
Now, I want to just divide that by 7,000, which is how much 1 kilogram of fat is in calories, and that's 11.44 kilograms of body weight a year. Okay. Now, when you take into consideration that most of the research on weight gain has proven or indicated that the difference between gaining or not gaining weight is only about 200 to 300 calories a day of additional caloric intake.
Yeah.
There's your reason for gaining weight.
Yeah, and this is for people if you understand that the average resting metabolic rate, like for somebody Yanni and my size, our resting metabolic rate is about 2,100 to 2,200 calories a day. So we literally need to only consume 10% more than what we would normally consume to get that. Now, if you're someone smaller than us, if you're about 65 kilos, then you're, so let's call it 150 pounds. I don't know if that's exactly right. No, 60. Yeah, let's call it 150 pounds. Then for you to have 2 standard drinks, that's actually about 15% or 20% of your own body weight, of your own resting metabolic rate. So you're going way further into calorie surplus than what Yanni or I would be doing. So when you look at it like that, those 2 standard drinks a day.
And it doesn't matter if you're having them a day or if you're binging at the end of the week and having them in a night.
Yep.
What I'm saying here is that those 11.44 kilograms of body fat are going to come on, those 80,000 calories a year, they're going to have to be, if you don't want to gain weight, if you want to neutrally balance your energy intake, you're going to have to take them from somewhere else, which means that you have to eat less. All right, which means that you're going to be challenged by the feelings of satiety, because alcohol does not trigger the hormones that make you feel satisfied, that make you feel full. So you have to realize that if you're going to choose to drink on a regular basis, then you have to be taking those calories from somewhere else. You have to be removing them, eliminating them from somewhere else in your day, which means that you either have to combat it with something like intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating, where you're eliminating a meal and you do not make those calories up in the refeed window. You do not overconsume for the meals that you have.
But let's be real though, Yanni, because what you're describing there, we know firsthand that it doesn't work. We know the idea of what you're describing there, which we've said to people, if you're going to drink regularly, you have to replace the calories. No one does that.
Yeah.
There is no one that we've ever worked with, and we have been personal trainers working face-to-face with people for 17 years. There is no one that we've given this advice to that's ever effectively deployed it and kept drinking a couple of drinks every day or one big drinking session a week. The only time that people have ever really effectively lost serious weight, like 15, 20 kilos or, 35 to 50 pounds, 45 pounds, whatever it is, and maintained it, is when they remove alcohol and go from regular drinkers to, oh man, I barely have one drink a week now. But I used to have, 2 drinks a night when I met you. It's the only time we've ever seen it work.
And if we share a personal story, both Rad and I go through periods of drinking alcohol and not drinking alcohol, and I can tell you with my hand on my heart, the only times I ever gain weight is when I start drinking alcohol.
Yep.
I can maintain a neutral calorie balance or even a negative calorie balance to lean up really easily when alcohol's not in the picture. But the moment I reintroduce alcohol, it only takes a matter of weeks and I start to gain weight. And it's very, very difficult to create enough of a deficit in the food consumption and enough of a deficit through exercise to not. And I experiment with lots of different ways of doing it through, going on real intensive fat burning walks where I maintain the right heart rate to be maximizing the fat burning process, all of these sorts of things. Now, very quickly, a couple of guys have posted here what they're doing, and I want to talk about this because one of them is Tim Hughes, who's suggested he's on the CSIRO Total Wellbeing Diet, and also Diane Norbury saying she's following the CSIRO guidelines too. Low carb and whole foods definitely works best. Now, I want to just highlight the reason why the CSIRO diet is so effective, because it does exactly what we're talking about. It is a higher protein, low carbohydrate diet, and there are many reasons for that, and I believe many benefits to that. They've just released another bit of data which is made the mainstream media this week, which was that, lo and behold, people who have diabetes do better on a low carb diet. We've been banging that drum for 15 years, and that's been common knowledge for a long period of time. But it is just, I find it easier to eat a lower carb, high protein diet for a number of reasons. One is that eating higher protein, which we're going to talk about later in the week, is the best way to maximize muscle protein synthesis. It is a really easy way of eliminating processed foods because most processed foods are very high in carbohydrate. And the other thing about the CSIRO diet guidelines are that they really encourage eating whole foods, like what we've talked about today. And that is a very, very good benefit. There are many benefits to that. It's great for the gut microbiome. It's great for the systemic inflammation. It's great for so many different reasons. And it's just it's great because of the satiety concept. You're eating more fiber, so you're going to feel full quicker, The other good thing about the CSIRO diet is the Total Wellbeing Diet. There's a lot laid out for you, and it covers meal prep, and it covers organising and getting organised and things like that. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about later in the week. You need to be prepared because we are very much often a slave to our sensations, feelings, emotions, urges, and if you're not prepared in advance with your nutrition and you don't have some form of a strategy that gets you organized so that you're ready for those periods of time when you feel, like you're really craving something, then it's very, very hard not to mess it up, And the CSIRO Total Wellbeing Diet just helps to lay it out. It creates a strategy. It's fairly straightforward and it works. Now, I'm not sitting here banging the drum and I'm not a proponent of that meal plan. What I am a proponent of is doing something that's going to work for you. Doing something that's going to fit in with the belief systems that you've got around food, that's going to fit in, if that means that you're a vegan or you're a carnivore or whatever that is, do something, find something that works for you and your belief system and your previous history around food. And do something that's going to be long-term sustainable. And it's great to see people getting good results here. Tim's also said alcohol was definitely the one I have to watch the most. It is for most people, brother. It is for most people. Just quickly scouring these comments to see. Lee Clements has said, watch calories to allow for a beer at brewery Sunday afternoon. Takes me days to pick up after drinking 2 drinks of alcohol. Yeah, that's exactly right. It really knocks you about. And that's the hidden downside to drinking alcohol, I think, is how much it affects your momentum with training. You know, even if you get all the calories right, you minimize calories in preparation for the fact that you're going to go over with a few alcohol calories on the weekend. Your training on Monday is compromised. Your training on Tuesday is compromised if you've had a big night on the weekend. If you've had a big night on Saturday or Sunday, your training on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday is compromised.
Yep.
You know, and that doesn't even talk about or take into consideration the stress that it puts on your body. You know, so yeah, look, there you go.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, if you liked this show, make sure you tune in tomorrow. We're going to be going deeper into nutrition. Have a great day, everyone.
See you tomorrow.
Health is about performance, not just body image.
You better be willing to accept what you're going to have to do to get there.
We'll start focusing on movement goals, strength goals, flexibility goals.
When you nail that skill, that's there forever.
The body image goal doesn't get you that
It's
far.
the consistency and frequency that's going to get you there. It's not the intensity.
There's no shortcuts to mastery and movement. Destination doesn't change overnight, but your direction will.
The gym is not the place to beat up the body that you hate. It's the place to build the body that you love.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.